A lot of big stories to cover today. And of course, at the top of the list is the coronavirus. And the president at the White House, he's taking a lot of heat and a lot of criticism over something he said over the weekend. He said the vast majority of coronavirus cases in this country were, quote, totally harmless. In fact, he said 99%. The president made the comment during his 4th of July speech over the weekend, and he downplayed the urgency of the pandemic as cases, deaths, and hospitalizations continue to soar nationwide.
Now we have tested almost 40 million people. By so doing, we show cases, 99% of which are totally harmless, results that no other country can show because no other country is testing that we have, not in terms of the numbers or in terms of the quality.
All right, so here are the numbers this Monday morning. Nearly 130,000 people have already died from the virus in the U.S., while the number of confirmed infections is now more than 2 million. And in an interview yesterday, the FDA Commissioner, Stephen Hahn, actually refused to defend the president's misleading claim.
So I'm not going to get into who's right and who's wrong. What I'm going to say, Dana, is what I've said before, which is that it's a serious problem that we have. We've seen this surge in cases. We must do something to stem the tide, and we have this in our power to do it by following the guidance from the White House Task Force and the CDC.
All right, we are going to bring in Paula Reid. Paula, you were live at the White House to dig in a little to this. So here we have, a case where we've heard from the administration, we've heard from the coronavirus task force, and they seem to be, issuing a different message than the president. The president says 99% of coronavirus cases are completely harmless. I don't know exactly what he means by harmless, but, give us a sense of where he might be getting this information, where he's getting this number from, and why he would say something like that.
Well, Anne-Marie, there's no definition of harmless. There is no statistical model that would support the president's claim that this is 99% harmless. It appears, though, that the president may have seized on the statistic that sort of as estimate of 1% or less of the people that actually get coronavirus die. But of course, that estimate does not take into consideration the totality of what has happened as a result of COVID-19. It does not take into account people who spend weeks in the hospital, people who deal with debilitating conditions, to say nothing of the economic impact. So the president's assessment here, it's just not supported by science. As you saw there, FDA Commissioner Hahn, he was not able to support the president's claims. Some of the president's former top health officials, they came out a little more strongly. They said, look, this is not true. Our colleague Margaret Brennan yesterday spoke with the mayors of several cities that are seeing these spikes, and they also pushed back on this claim as just being not accurate, not statistically, not in terms of science, and not in terms of the reality on the ground.
And so as we're seeing the cases spike in certain cities and certain states, we're seeing the leaders of municipalities, whether it be mayors or, governors, sort of asking for help or asking for a stronger statement coming from the president and the federal government. What do we know about the efforts coming out of the White House? Are there any coordinated efforts to assist the states or the municipalities that have started to reopen now and are seeing their cases go up?
The assistance is pretty minimal. The administration has made it clear that they believe that this should be a localized approach and that each state, each county, each town should take its own situation into consideration when advising its residents on whether they can reopen businesses. But we've seen, Anne-Marie, this patchwork approach has resulted in this wave, new records being set of COVID cases. But at this point, it appears that the White House does not want to take responsibility for this. They do not want a strong federal response. The one place that states and folks who are suffering, either economically or otherwise, may see some relief is in this next round of negotiations over another stimulus, another aid package. We spoke with the Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, a short time ago. He told me, even though there have been reports that he would be leading this because of his experience on the Hill, Secretary of Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, he will continue to lead this effort. He's the one who brought the White House's case through the past few stimulus deals, and he will be leading this. Now, in terms of what it will mean, remember, The last stimulus, it had a lot of different components. It extended unemployment. It also gave people that $600 bonus, that top off that's going to expire soon. People also got about $1,200 checks in addition to a lot of loans and other economic stimulus measures. This time around, the White House is signaling that people will likely get another stimulus check. It could also, depending on how the negotiations go, it could also be available to a broader group of people. There were some restrictions that limited the extent to which, for example, as people with certain immigration status, even if they pay taxes, they may not be able to get this. So that's really the only kind of federal relief that they can expect. The president, though, has said that he will not sign any stimulus without a payroll tax cut in it. That's an idea, Anne-Marie, where it just has not received much support from either side of the aisle. It's also unclear how that would really address a lot of the economic suffering, those who have lost their jobs as a result of COVID. Mark Meadows, though, he says that's not necessarily a red line issue for the White House at this point.
Well, I hope they make some decisions really quickly. For a lot of people, you know, that extra money is really what's helping to keep them afloat. Without that extra $600 or businesses getting the extra support, they're not going to survive a few more months. So, you know, we've been talking about what the president said for his 4th of July speech. This is a time typically for many Americans of tremendous pride and patriotism, and it could have been an opportunity for the president to heal wounds, call for unity. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of divisiveness in the country, and he addressed the protests that we're seeing nationwide, calling for reforms when it comes to racial violence, racial tension, systemic racism. He did address the issues, but perhaps not in the way that many had hoped. Here's what the president had to say.
We will never allow an angry mob to tear down our statues, erase our history, indoctrinate our children, or trample on our freedoms. We will safeguard our values, traditions, customs, and beliefs, and we will defend, protect, and preserve American way of life, which began in 1492 when Columbus discovered America.
So, Paula, there you have the president choosing to focus on the debate over monuments as opposed to sort of the core issue. Yeah, monuments is one of the things that's being talked about in this country, and we've seen monuments come down, some of them involuntarily, some totally voluntary by the municipalities. But that's really just sort of touching the tip of the iceberg in terms of the national conversation that many other people are having. This appeals to the president's base. Why do you suppose that he chose this line on the 4th of July?
Well, let's put this in the broader context for his prospects in November. The fact is this country is currently riddled with anxiety, economic anxiety, public health anxiety over a pandemic. And you also have this cultural reckoning of our segregated and times racist past. And the polls reflect, Anne-Marie, that voters do not like the way the president has handled either one of these. And former Vice President Joe Biden is extending his lead over the president, largely because a lot of voters feel the president has failed to stop the pandemic and all of the economic carnage that has caused. But then he's also really failed to constructively respond to this wave of racial justice protests. I mean, this is according to the polls. Now, looking ahead to November, the president appears to be making a very conscious decision that he, instead of trying to encourage unity in this country, he will continue to try to sow division. This is a strategy that arguably, a similar strategy that worked for him in 2016. He said things that were at times racially insensitive, at others outright racist, because he believed that would be a successful strategy for him, and it was. He landed in the White House by campaigning on America First, focused on building a wall to keep out immigrants, shedding foreign alliances. And once again, it seems like he wants a foil. He needs something that he's going to protect America in his definition from. And it appears that that is now really other Americans, the folks who are out there protesting, the folks who are out there tearing down statues or marching in the street peacefully. It appears that that's going to be his strategy going into 2020. Why does he pursue this strategy? It's not clear. But again, racially insensitive and at times racist rhetoric did successfully win him the White House in 2016.
Yeah, certainly. That's when he wasn't the guy in the Oval Office. Now he is. And you got to wonder, as you point out, a lot of the polls indicate that this is not working for him. I know that he doesn't think, many of the polls are worth anything, but you really got to wonder, with such a national platform, why he chose to go in that direction. But listen, Paula, I just want to sort of flip back to COVID-19 and the president. He's planning another rally. It's going to be outside Portsmouth, New Hampshire. A little bit different, though. They're going to be handing out masks.
Yeah, that's right. So a few things that are a little bit different, right? We're coming off of a big rally in Tulsa that resulted in dozens of Secret Service agents, dozens of campaign staffers having to quarantine because there were positive cases. And in that rally, there was no social distancing. Masks were handed out, but they were not required. And as we saw, it was not quite the turnout that they had hoped. So this time around, they're doing it outdoors at an airport. The president has done events at airports before. I've covered some of them with him. The upside is that it's outdoors, a little easier to social distance, but it's not clear, Anne-Marie, if social distancing will actually be enforced. Another issue with these outdoor rallies near airports is they tend to be very hot. A lot of the president's supporters are a little older. I've seen a lot of people passing out, a lot of other health issues, non-COVID related, at these events in the past. But this is something that they're going to try because obviously it alleviates some of the concerns about the spread of coronavirus. As you noted, they're going to hand out masks. They will be encouraged. But again, if the president is sending these mixed signals, if he's not wearing one, if he's suggesting you don't need to, or even a few weeks ago when he suggested it might be dangerous, it's unlikely that a lot of people are going to wear these masks and that they really will be able to successfully prevent the spread of COVID at an event like this. So again, they do seem to be changing their rhetoric a little bit, saying they're going to encourage people as opposed to being like, your choice. But we'll see how this actually plays out on Saturday and if this could be an approach that they could use through November.
Yeah, and this is all happening, increasingly as people who are closer to the president's circle are testing positive for COVID-19. Members of his campaign staff, people who went to the Tulsa rally. Yes, we don't know if they contracted it because they went to the Tulsa rally, but they were certainly present. And so it's sort of hard to deny the numbers when the cases are inching closer and closer to the president himself. Paula Reid, thank you so much.